Welcome to our fourth webinar of this school year. Tonight we're talking about unlocking the secrets of child development. And you'll learn more about why we feel like this is a really helpful tool in parenting, raising children, teaching children, doing anything that involves children. And if you're new to if you're new to AHA, we want to make sure that you know that this is not our usual way of doing things. Generally, we like to work with people in person. We like to be interactive. We like to get to know you and hear about your experiences and draw on your wisdom. Santa Barbara Unified School District wanted us to do these Zoom webinars to just offer what hopefully will turn out to be valuable information. And if this is your first introduction to us, we hope that when we tell you at the end about some in-person opportunities that you'll take advantage of those too, and we'll get to meet you in person. And just some practical matters. We're going to present some information and slides and some questions for you to think about. You can enter your questions anytime in the Q&A. There will be a Q&A segment and a brief survey near the end of the hour. And we're going to ask you now and again then to please fill that out to let us know what we got right and what you might enjoy in future workshops. And if you stay for the whole webinar and submit the survey, you are eligible for free services from AHA, and we'll tell you more about that in a little bit. And AHA, just some general information. We're an educational nonprofit. We've brought social emotional learning and community building to over 75,000 students, educators, and families in Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, and Goleta since 1999. And we are going to introduce ourselves to you now, your facilitators for tonight. I am Melissa Lowenstein, and I'm AHA's Director of Content, Training, and Adult Programming. I'm a group facilitator, I'm a staff therapist, and I'm also one of the clinical liaisons at AHA. And I'm going to pass it over to Sabrina to introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here with you. My name is Sabrina Geshay. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Santa Barbara and the clinical director at AHA. And I have the pleasure of overseeing some of the clinical support that we offer to teens and families in our programming, and also to work closely with both Melissa and Nancy in providing counseling support to those teens. And I used to be a facilitator in groups, so I remember that part as well. And I will pass it over to Nancy.
Hey everyone, my name is Nancy, and I am a group facilitator, and I'm also a therapist, as mentioned already. And I'm also part of the parent trainer facilitators. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just realized, Nancy, you were supposed to do that part. I'm so sorry. I just leapt right ahead. And maybe, Nancy, would you like to introduce our interpreters and our tech helper?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have with us today Regina and Hugo as our interpreters, and Sarah helping us out with the technology in the background.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to invite everyone to take a moment to drop into some mindfulness. We always try to start our groups with some kind of mindful moment. And the reason for that is it helps us to arrive in the present moment and to relax and feel open to learning and connecting. So if you are sitting, then go ahead and feel yourself sitting in your seat, feel the weight of your body in your seat, feel the bottoms of your feet against the floor. Maybe you're listening to this while you're making dinner. I don't know. But whatever you happen to be doing, just see if you can get in touch with what's happening with your body right now in this very moment. Just feel your body. A lot of times we just end up stuck in our heads all day long. So let your attention drop down into your body, whatever it might be doing, whether it's still or in movement. And if you're able to close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes. And that might help you be even more aware of the sensations that you're experiencing inside your body. And notice your breath. So sometimes we can get really super busy and we can get overwhelmed with the demands of our lives. And a little tiny pause just to notice ourselves can really help us calm our systems down. So just notice what your breath is doing. Maybe it's a little short. I just noticed that mine is. I might notice a little anxiety in my body, or maybe you're having a wonderful day and your body feels really yummy and peaceful. Whatever it is, just notice. And then exhale all the breath out of your body that is in there right now. Just take a big exhalation. The exhalation is the calming part of the breath. So full exhalation to make room for a nice big inhalation. We're just going to take 3 deep breaths together. So nice deep inhalation all the way up to the most capacity you have for a big breath. And then letting it all the way back out, nice and slow. So not blowing it out, but taking as much time as you can to let all the breath out of the body. And feel how calming that is to let all the breath go. And again, breathing in. And breathing out. And this last round of breath, once you get to the very tippy top of that in-breath, you might hold it for a moment, or you might even take a little sip more of air into your lungs. And then as you release that breath out, see if there's any place that feels tight, you can just release with that out breath. And then let your breath go back to its normal pattern, whatever that might be, and just see if there's a difference in how your body is feeling. And you might notice that your mind is racing a little bit. Maybe there's something going on with your thoughts too. And that's okay. That's another thing we can notice when we're having a mindful moment. And maybe to finish off, I really like this for making myself even more calm and centered is I put one hand on my heart and I put one hand on my belly. And just, it's almost like giving yourself a hug. So just feeling that contact of your hands on your body. And the next time you exhale, you can release your hands down, or you can keep them there if you like them there. And if your eyes are closed, you can blink them open. And come on back to our little community that we're enjoying for the next 45 minutes or so. Mindfulness is a really important part of making changes in our parenting, if that's something that we want to do, because we all have our habits, right? We all have our defaults, our things that we do when we're not paying attention. And taking a mindful moment really helps us be more mindful about the choices we make as parents. And so we really emphasize the importance of that in any time we're in a parent group. And we also do this with the teens we serve in our teen groups. We do this with everybody. So I hope that that felt nourishing for you. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Sabrina.
Thank you, Melissa. That was absolutely wonderful. I just want to thank you all again for being here with us tonight. We are very excited to bring this information to you because truly understanding child development and the stages and phases of that really can help make us better parents. And there's a number of reasons why that is, not the least of which is we can know generally what to expect at each stage, which can really impact how we respond to what happens at each age and stage and make us better prepared and more responsive rather than reactive. So some of those ways is to be able to respond skillfully to challenges and do what works rather than arguing with reality or going into battle mode with your child, depending on what age and stage, because there are challenges at every age and stage of development for sure. Another way that this information helps is to provide effective guidance and allow children to work through problems in ways that foster their growth and maturity. Because we want to be able to support them in that way. And there are certain tools that we can do to help them with that and to do successfully develop through these phases. And thirdly, and this may even be the most important in some ways, is to reduce our own frustration around struggles that are normal for each stage. When you know what's normal, you don't have to be caught off guard with it. You can be better prepared for it and learn techniques for how to manage that, and therefore make you a more effective parent. So, that being said, we are going to go through multiple stages of development, and I'm going to pass it back to Melissa to talk to us about infancy and 0 to 2. So, Melissa, I'm handing that back to you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Yes, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the littles and a lot more time talking about the stages that follow. But I think this is a really important stage to consider, even if some of this information doesn't feel relevant to you. It might help you understand some things that are going on if you're having struggles now. Just understanding how those needs might or might not have been met during the infant stage just helps you respond more skillfully later on if things come up. So the most important thing in the infant stage is attachment and bonding. And what that means is we're establishing a secure attachment by responding consistently to the baby's needs. And that means skin-to-skin contact, eye contact, and comforting touch. I think of all of us, Nancy's the one who has the littlest little. So you are absolutely welcome to chime in at any time, Nancy, if you have anything to add to this bit. Consistently respond to your child's bids for connection. And there's these terms, safe haven and secure base. And I want to show you a beautiful figure. I really love this figure as a way of understanding parenting a child who's a newborn to age 2. And I'm going to just talk a little bit about what this slide means. So you see on one side, it says secure base and safe haven on the other side. And then there's a circle. So at the bottom, safe haven, protect me, comfort me, delight in me, and organize my feelings. So that's a major attachment need for a very young child, is to have that safe place to go when they go and they explore, to be able to come back and have that safety. And the secure base is that starting place. So I know we don't have this in Spanish, which I am now regretting not getting a translated version of this. But you can see how it's a cycle. The child needs that secure base. They go off and they explore, and they need to be watched over, delighted in, helped, and enjoyed with. And then they encounter something that is frightening or new, and they need a safe haven to come back to. And that basically captures the needs of the child ages 0 to 2. If you're doing those things, then you're doing the most important things that you can to create the relationship that's going to make the future stages easier to navigate. So that's the circle of security. And then here on the bottom, always be bigger, stronger, wiser, and kind. Whenever possible, follow my child's need, and whenever necessary, take charge. I feel like that's just such a beautiful, simple encapsulation of parenting a very little child. And I think one of the things that this helps, I knew this when I had very small children way back when. And I remember feeling like it made it so simple. I didn't have to worry about spoiling my child by giving them too much attention. It was basically I respond to their need, and then I let them explore. That was basically my assignment. And that felt beautifully simple to me. A little more on the infant stage. Support motor development by encouraging tummy time, crawling, and safe exploration. You want to talk to the baby frequently, an infant age 0 to 2, talking to them often, responding to their coos and babbling and gestures helps them develop their communication skills. Establish routines, but be flexible. And this can be a really big obstacle for parents now who are so busy. A lot of times, all the parents are working, everybody's under time stress. And so sometimes you can't get the baby to bed at exactly the same time every day. Sometimes the baby will not go to bed at the same time every day. And I think parents, I know in my therapy practice, parents get very anxious about, okay, if I'm not holding on to my schedule perfectly, is that going to be harmful to my child? And no, of course you can be flexible and responsive and attentive to the baby's needs day to day. And it is important to have some overarching sense of routine from the beginning. It's just soothing to them, to their systems. And then, of course, screens. We're going to talk about screens at every stage. And everybody who knows about this is advising to keep children off of screens until at least age 2 if possible. And yes, that's difficult, but that's what's best for very young children. And just be mindful of your own digital use also around very young children. Um, and that is all we are going to say today about the little littles. And I'm going to pass it over to Sabrina, who has a preschooler.
Indeed, I do. I'm in the thick of it at this stage of development, and so it was fun for me to reflect on it for tonight's meeting with you all. My daughter's 3.5, and so these themes apply very much to her, and I can happily report I made it to age 3 with no screens. So I just want to let you know that it is doable, and I'm still managing to keep it to a minimum. Although I totally get the pull to use that sometimes just even to have a little break. But yeah, let's talk about ages 2 to 6, toddler and preschool. A really big theme at this stage is independence. Uh, you all remember if you've got children, which we all do here most likely, that 1.5, 2 year old where it's all about I do it, I do it, I do it. I know I heard that a lot and I still do. My daughter very much wants to show me what she can do, which is great. So it's very important to allow freedom to explore, interact, take risks, healthy, appropriate risks, and also to make mistakes. It's how we learn. It's how we all learn. So choices, that was one of the best pieces of advice I was given early on was give choices, but not too many. So we're talking choosing between two things can help diminish power struggling, which is so very helpful. So even when it comes down to the toothbrush, for a red or a blue toothbrush, not the whole rainbow. In my home, it's, the Elsa toothbrush or the Moana toothbrush. These are our choices every night, which one, but keeping it simple, but allowing the child to feel like they have some control to exercise their will and make a decision on their own. So just allowing for opportunities for them to make choices for themselves. Another really important piece is imagination and play. They are so natural with this, but just really encouraging creativity helps their development so much. Providing opportunities for imagination, play with toys or dress up, using art and storytelling, really just letting their imagination run wild and meeting them in that place is fun for us as adults and parents as well. And then also language and cognitive development are there's so much happening in their brains, in the development at this stage, and engaging in conversation, really talking with your child matters so much, and getting down on their level and making eye contact and encouraging their vocabulary to grow by naming objects, pointing at objects, naming them, describing the activities that you're doing together, and listening attentively. That is so very crucial so they know that they're being seen and heard, and developing that relational quality as well, knowing how to do that. So engage in activities like problem solving and thinking skills. Puzzles are wonderful. Board games, I love how every board game has like the age that it's appropriate for in the top corner. That's helped me a lot, figuring out which ones to buy for my daughter. And simple science experiments. I mean, kids love experimenting and seeing what happens when you put this and this together. And that can be a lot of fun as well. So, and reading, I should definitely mention reading. Reading with kids also so helps the vocabulary and language development. What's also crucial, and you'll see this on the next slide, is, this is really when we're beginning to foster emotional intelligence, which is a lot of that is what we teach at AHA, is emotional intelligence, how to identify and recognize feelings and express feelings, and that's crucial to getting one's needs met. So this is really starting to become more and more important at this stage. And that's through helping your child understand and express their emotions, talking about feelings, their feelings, your feelings, those of others. Maybe they see another kid who's looking sad. I will, my daughter will point it out, or I'll point it out to her and say, "Oh, she looks sad." And I say, "Yeah, why do you think she's sad?" Or my daughter will tell me, "I'm really mad, Mama." And I'll say, "Okay, well, yeah, everybody gets mad sometimes. Why are you feeling mad?" And then helping them calm down. So, all feelings have their place. So being really cautious about just being very welcoming to all the feelings, because that's natural. We're all humans. We're going to experience the whole gamut of feelings. So there are no yucky, like even the yucky ones are what we might think of as yucky, like feeling angry or feeling super frustrated. But just normalizing them and letting them know all feelings are true. And there are no feelings, know what feelings are appropriate for others in any given situation as well. That we can know what feelings are appropriate. So help them learn to manage tough emotions in particular when they don't get their way. It's, that's going to happen. And you can co-regulate with them to help them see how to calm down. Um, and continue to trust that your child's feelings are completely legitimate. Even if they can't always have what they want, letting them know that, yeah, I get it. You don't get to do this thing you want to do or have what you want to have right this minute. And then validate their feelings while still setting and holding clear boundaries. The thing you don't want to do is have them freak out and have a meltdown, and then you give in and and then just give them the message that when they do that, they're going to get what they want, because you will have a much bigger problem come adolescence if you do that at that phase. So some of the ways that we can communicate and validate feelings with kids, I'm sure everybody here has their ways of saying things. But just to give you a few examples, just like acknowledging and saying, I see you are angry and you can't have cookies before dinner. And that's just not something we do in our family. I see you now, if they start to calm themselves down, being patient enough to wait until after we have our meal. And that's great. I love how patient you're being. And then another alternative, another one, or just an example, I see you're mad, but we do not hit others in our family. That's a big one in my family. And we went through a small hitting phase. So I use this a lot. I see you're mad, but we do not hit others in our family. And then once your child starts to calm down, great, you're showing me now that you have self-control to be angry, but not hit. Because it's okay to be angry, but we don't hit when we're angry. One more example, I see you're afraid for me to leave you at school today, but it's important that you go to school, and school is a place for students and teachers, but not parents. Thank you for being so cooperative about getting ready and getting to school. I don't know about any of you, but we just came off of a holiday break. And so this has been one that I have had to do a lot in the last couple days, because coming off of a break, the going back to school thing was not easy. But most important, it's important to manage your own emotional reactivity, especially when your child is on your last nerve. And we've all been there. And that is a time when we can react in a way that's actually going to escalate the situation and not actually be helpful in calming the child down. So a little mindfulness in that moment, or just taking that extra deep breath, is a great thing to do to be able to respond the way you want to with your child from a calm place and a clear place. So I don't think I can underscore this one enough. The importance of acknowledging and praising positive or even neutral behaviors and choices as you see them. When you see your child doing something great or calming themselves down, really acknowledge that and praise that, because it's truly what you want to validate what you want to see more of. So when you see them doing that, really reflect that, especially, like I said, reflecting when you see them managing their emotions or their relationships well, and describing out loud positive character traits that they're demonstrating in those moments, whether it's compassion or caring or respect for another person. These are the ways they learn and see and take that as a value. And those are the values we certainly want to be teaching them. Social intelligence, how they relate with other kids and other people. So really encouraging sharing, taking turns, playing with other children, being a role model for empathy, even if they don't fully grasp the concept, like really taking that moment to teach them how to be kind when they see someone else is hurting or upset. And ages 4 to 6 can begin to learn also how to resolve conflict. My daughter's only 3.5, and we've already started practicing that, how to repair with somebody if they've, made someone upset or took a toy away from them, like really modeling and walking them through the steps of that. And again, as Melissa said, we're going to be talking about devices at every stage and developmental, every stage and phase. Here again, it's really advised, and research shows that this is important to restrict to 1 to 2 hours a day, including any TV time that your toddler or preschooler is engaging in. So now I'm going to pass the torch over to Nancy, who's going to talk with you further about middle childhood.
Yes. Okay. So middle childhood would be ages 7 to 11, 12-ish. And here it's important to foster building responsibility and giving the children activities that they could do and be responsible for, like I don't know, taking out the trash maybe, things that may seem reasonable within this age range. Also encouraging learning opportunities, getting involved in their education, helping them out with homework, reading together, going to museums, spending time in nature, going for walks, foster new learning experiences. So, like going for a walk, you could just learn as you go and teach them things that you know. Or ask them and engage with nature, and that's a way for them to also learn um, as they're going on a nature walk. Focus more on the joy of learning and the effort made rather than the outcome. Oftentimes we might default to just wanting to say, "Oh, you did a good job because you got an A," but they could have been giving it their best effort and they got a C. So just acknowledging that you notice that they were reading, they were studying before the test, and just really acknowledging that they seem to give it a good effort. In social development, right here, it kind of shifts, like when they're little. They really want to be with the parent, and as they're getting older, they're looking more towards the friendship. So the friendships become very important. Encouraging positive social behaviors, encouraging teamwork, and managing conflict. Supporting the children in forming their own identity. And this kind of goes hand in hand in giving them choices. Like Sabrina mentioned her toothbrush example, like just letting them choose what they want to wear, like what they want to use when they're little, like which one, what toothbrush. But as they're getting older, giving them like options, like, okay, what do you want to wear? And just kind of lean into their interest. Also, watch what you say because they're always listening. I love when we are
Mhm.
told that children are like sponges because they absorb everything you say. Um, the children will mirror what we say. So I have two girls, three, I have three girls, but two are 3 and 5, and they almost sound like a mini me. So just they carry that. Whatever we say, they will mirror that. Um, and on to the next slide. Development of morality and conscience. Right here is where we could support children in learning to judge from wrong and right. And there could always be that conversation and like asking them like, what do you think would be like giving them scenarios like, what do you think would be the right thing to do or why not? Um, have concern for others. So also encouraging that empathy piece, building to be willing to share and forgive. Talking about it, just bringing up, I think scenarios are good here. What would happen if somebody broke something you like, and how would you feel about that? And how could we process, forgiveness. Let's see. Build a sense of justice and fairness, accounting for wants and needs of other parties. So just, I like this as I was reading about this. I thought it was amazing because we're like encouraging, they're like little humans and we're propelling them into being teenagers and just they're noticing, they're picking up what's fair, what's not fair, and having those conversations will give them better insight into what's right and wrong. Um, Setting expectations, set clear expectations for behaviors, chores, and schoolwork. You could let them know what is expected of them. Consistency in the rules will help them feel secure and understand the boundaries. As mentioned, we will continue to talk about devices and screens. So for this age group, it is recommended that no more than an hour a day. Um, yeah, it could feel like so little, right? But but it's not recommended that they watch more than an hour a day for this age group.
Thank you, Nancy. Now we get to talk about adolescents, age 12 to adult. And a fun fact that I learned is that 40% of parents feel a strong sense of powerlessness, rejection, and personal regret when their children become adolescents. 40%. So if you have adolescent children and you're having these feelings, you are not alone. This can be a very tough time. So we're going to talk a lot about teen development and maybe help make some of the things that feel impossible at least feel a little bit more normal. Teenagers are looking for independence and autonomy. They may push back against authority. So the answer for the parent is to foster open communication, be a guide rather than a controller, and allow them to make even more decisions for themselves. And sometimes that means that they're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna fail. And sometimes that's what's needed for them to learn what they need to learn. So this is a moment for parents, who love their children more than anything, to step back and let their children, I'm going to use the word suffer, maybe a little bit more for the sake of their growth. And teens do need adult guides and mentors outside of their parents as well. So if you're a parent and you need to tap out, you need to take a moment because this is hard. There's other adults who can hold that child and advise that child and be there for that child. And so I actually heard a figure recently where they need 5 adults outside of their parents as supports in this stage. And, if you don't have 5 adults, don't worry, but you might want to sign your kid up for AHA because that's a really great place to get your kid in contact with a lot of really cool adults. Emotions. Be ready for emotional turbulence. You may already know this. And yes, it's hormones, but it's more than that too, because teen brains are changing. It's not just that they're getting hormonal. So you keep modeling and teaching emotional intelligence, modeling listening skills, curiosity, coming from curiosity about others, tolerating challenging emotions without acting them out. And listening is really paramount in this stage for parents with teen children. And cultivating your own patience, however you need to do that. Some of us are naturally more patient than others. Some of us need a little help with that. And as a therapist who works with a lot of parents, I can say that's something that I help a lot of parents with. Just being patient enough to really listen and be open and curious about what's going on with your child. Of course, academic and career exploration is important for this age group because they're getting ready to launch. So whatever you can do to support their academic and career interests, encourage extracurricular activities, volunteer work, part-time jobs to help teens find their passions and build confidence. A teen who's found their passion is a teen that's going to have a much easier time in adolescence. That being said, my son, who's now 21, he would flit from thing to thing. Like it was very hard for him to stay with any one thing. He did a lot of exploring. And then there are other kids like my daughter who she focused on one thing.
Hmm.
For her, basically that she had one passion and she put her all into it. And different kids will approach it in different ways. And you got to feel your own kids out and see, do they need a lot of exploration? And to try lots of different things, or are they ready to settle in and find one thing? Neither one of them is better than the other.
Hmm.
And I'm going to pass it over to Sabrina to talk a little bit more about teens.
Yes. Thank you. So another big important thing in adolescence is respecting privacy. Some of you may have already encountered this. Um, as teens develop their sense of self, respecting their privacy is crucial. Setting boundaries is still important. So it's not to say don't set boundaries. Setting boundaries is very important, but allow them to maintain personal space and autonomy. They need to feel like they have their own space and that you respect their space. That I've done plenty of counseling with parents and families where this went horribly awry because a door was removed or mom read their journal or and it just creates so much upset. So it may take some practice on your part to be able to give them that space, but it really is crucial. And nobody likes to be lied to, but I just want to name that lying to parents is really common in the tween teen stage as a strategy for maintaining their privacy. They don't mean to be hurtful. It's just they're so adamant about maintaining their privacy. So don't take it terribly personally. If your teen does this to you, it's just one of their ways of protecting their privacy. And of course, you want to still ensure safe behavior in your teen. And there's times you have a right to know what it is they're doing on social media and stuff, but it is an important thing to remember that as an important thing for teens. And as Melissa indicated earlier, like there's a lot going on in the teen brain. There's a lot of change and development happening. And one thing to know is that there really is a decreased cognitive control. Like they really just kind of lose it sometimes, and that's not abnormal. They get very intense. One of my good friends recently said about her teen, "Oh my gosh, it's like The Exorcist. Like I felt like her head just spun around, you know." And she's like, "Who is this person? I don't even know how this is still my daughter." But there are things happening and the hormones and all that too. But there's also just developmentally increased risk taking and mood swings. Again, hormonally, this is normal risk taking. They're taking those risks to learn things and experiment, as Melissa said too. And they also have their own emotional coping styles. Every kid is different, but generally, um, in boys, it tends to be more towards distraction. And in girls, it's more rumination, like overthinking things or getting really fixated on something and beating themselves up about it sometimes. So just something to watch for. But they have a new capacity at this age and stage for recognizing ideals. Ideals versus reality can lead to misplaced self-criticism. I have a lot of conversations with parents about social media and the pros and cons of being on social media. And that is one of the harder downsides is that they see an ideal of what they think they should look like or what they think they should have. And sometimes that can lead to a lot of self-criticism that's really not helpful. But it's important to know that they have an awareness of these ideals and are comparing themselves to these ideals too and striving towards these ideals. There are a bunch of beliefs that are common for teens. I've heard one referred to as imaginary audience, and it's what we mean by that is conviction that others are as fascinated by them as they are. Very self-focused, very self-conscious. I actually talk about the teen years as appropriate narcissism. There are two phases in life where this is actually normal and appropriate, and that's when you're a 2-year-old and again when you're a teen, because you really are learning about yourself at both of those phases and trying to figure out, especially as a teen, who you are. And who you want to be. So there is a large self-focus, which can be maddening for parents because it's like, hello, like you aren't the only person on the planet here. But that is not uncommon for them to be very self-focused and self-conscious. Another term is personal fable. And what I mean by that is that they see experiences and concerns as their experiences and concerns as unique and special. Like, I'm the only one who's ever felt this way, and nobody can understand because I'm the only one who ever has felt this. And so that can be very normal at this stage. And also, many of you probably already know about this too, the invincibility fable, the notion that nothing bad is ever going to happen to them. They can take all these risks and it's going to be just fine. And, they don't anticipate the consequences for risky actions. So, again, it's normal for teens to have these beliefs. Really, what they're about is identity formation. They're really working on figuring out their identity and who they are. So their identity can be all over the place. They may have purple hair one day, green the next, short, long. They may try different ways of dressing. This is, again, very normal. Lots of experimentation and anxiety around happens for them too in trying to figure out who they are and see how they belong and where they fit in. But it's good for them to actually experiment with some of these different identities in doing that. So try not to freak out, but just be with them through this process and know that that's all part of that developmental phase. Facing this uncertainty with peers grows the strength of friendship bonds. So that's good. And we want to help teens integrate their cultural identities and expose them to cultural diversity. Again, that's part of understanding their roots and who they are in the context of those cultural identities. And that's all very positive. So I'm going to pass it back to Melissa for another piece on adolescence.
Yes, thank you, Sabrina. There's a researcher named Dan Siegel who wrote a wonderful book about the teen brain. And I'm going to forget the name of the book right now. What's the book called again?
Oh,
Is it Brainstorm?
Brainstorm. Thank you. I
yes.
probably have it behind me in my bookshelf.
You probably do.
Brainstorm. And he really breaks down how the things that we can feel really uncomfortable about in our teenagers are actually expressions of their changing brains that are normal and ultimately good and necessary. And he loves acronyms. So he came up with this acronym, which doesn't work in Spanish. My apologies about this. But he talks about emotional spark, which is the big emotions that are normal and happen for almost every teenager. Their emotions are really sparked and amplified. And that serves to help them do things like fall in love and take big risks and find their passions. So their emotions are just naturally magnified. Social engagement becomes much more important. That as much as we would love for them to stay with us forever, sometimes, not all the time, they do need to go out and make lives on their own and find their people. And they really hopefully are practicing this in the teen years. And devices have gotten in the way of that. COVID got in the way of that. So some of our teens who are in this phase now are struggling a little bit with social engagement. There's a lot of social anxiety. But just to keep in mind as a parent that this is a very important part of adolescent development, to do everything that you can to foster their ability to be socially engaged, ideally in person and not digitally only. Novelty. So teens are naturally attracted to novelty. They get bored very easily. And that's because the activity of a neurotransmitter called dopamine changes in their brains at this stage. The dopamine that they have is less effective in giving them the good feelings that you get when you're doing something that you like. And so they need to do more of the things that they like to get that same feeling. And so they really crave novelty. And then just creativity. The teen brain is just naturally remarkably creative. And if you've spent a lot of time with teens, they can come up with just some amazing stuff. And if you can be with them in a space of curiosity, it's just amazing what can come through them. And exploration is what this stage is all about. So what can you do as a parent or a guardian or an adult at home to foster their exploration, that's going to be really good for them. Devices. Oh, this gets very tricky in the teen years because everybody knows now, like you really don't want kids on social media before the age of 16. And then if you do manage to keep them off, then guess what? This is the stage when they're going to enter that world. Just know that the more time a teen spends on social media, the worse their mental health is going to be. This is true of both genders, all genders. So the guideline here is no more than 3 hours a day of media time for teens, except those who are 17 or older and who are functioning well. So if there's a kid and they are not getting the grades that they need to get, if they're not being able to get up in the morning to get to school on time, if things are not going well in some part of their life, that the first thing to think about is what's going on with them on their phones. So, and that's a battle. And I'm sorry to say, like parents who are parenting right now, this is the battle that you are presented with. I wish I could like wave a magic wand and change it, but this is just part of it now. And then a final piece about parenting teens, and I'm just going to read this quote out because I feel like it's so important. Effective parental monitoring depends partly on adolescent willingness to disclose information about their behavior to parents, which in turn depends on adolescents seeing their parents as warm and understanding. So if you want your kid to let you know what's up, they have to see you as somebody who's not going to freak out when they tell you something that you don't want to hear. That's another way of putting it. And I think probably in every in-person parent group that we give, I like to say at least one time, just don't freak out. And if you can't not freak out, please come and get some therapy with us or somewhere else to help you not freak out. Because as soon as you start freaking out when you hear things that you don't want to hear, that's when your kids will stop telling you. So I can't emphasize that enough. And I'm going to pass it back to Sabrina to bring us home with a summary.
Well said, Melissa. Thank you. I love that quote. Yeah. So we've given you a lot of information, but there's some kind of key nuggets we want to leave you with here before we wrap up. And these are some just key points to remember, no matter what age or stage. If we can leave you with these, first and foremost, try not to yell at your child. And let me tell you, I know that's a tall order because there's times we're all going to do it. But if you can try to not do that, that would be really helpful and important for your relationship with your child. Because that's also about modeling, which is my next point. Do as you want them to do. So remember that just like Nancy said, they're sponges. They are learning from us every step of the way, and we are modeling every step of the way how to have our feelings, how to manage our feelings, how to interact with others. So model what you want to see them do, because it starts with you, and they'll be the first, especially teens, to tell you, well, but you don't do that. So this is an important one to practice. Another key, scaffolding, which is to guide and support them at the proximal edge of development. So when they're about to make a developmental leap, helping hold them through that, not doing it for them. And what I mean by that, I was talking with Melissa about this earlier today, like when a child starts to walk and they can take 2 steps, but they're really working to take that 3rd step, you hold their hand and help them take that 3rd step, right? Just helping bridge that, but not doing for them, but helping them make that leap or that next step. Attunement. Practice pausing to tune into your child and feel what they're feeling. So important to sense into their needs. That will help continue to foster and build the closeness that they feel with you. And in that last quote, right, to experience you as warm and attentive and like you care enough to really understand them. So important. Boundaries. You are the boss of the family. Never forget that. They need you to be that. They actually don't want to be the boss, even though they might tell you they want to be the boss. It's their job to test limits as much at age 15, 14, 13 as it is at age 2. It's a developmental step and a task, and that's what they do. And it's your job to be calm, clear, and consistent with your boundaries. I want to say that one more time. Calm, clear, and consistent. If you're not consistent, it's going to all go sideways on you. So try to remember that. Children need their parents to be authoritative. Having too much control on their part creates anxiety and more acting out. If they have too much control, they will act out. Another key point, please trust the child's report of what they are experiencing, whether it's the feelings they're sharing or the needs they're experiencing. Even if you are like, what? Are you kidding me right now? Validate it. They need to know that you hear them and that you get it. Again, even if it may seem unreasonable to you. Don't try to make your child happy all the time. Help them learn to tolerate all kinds of feelings and experiences. Are any one of us happy all the time? That's not how human experience works. That's not what it is to be human. And we need to be able to tolerate when maybe we're not feeling so great or angry or frustrated. So you don't need to make them happy all the time. You need to help them learn tolerance for all their feelings and experiences. Let children do for themselves what they can. Often, especially if it's like a time crunch, sometimes parents will swoop in and do something for the child just because it's more convenient or it gets it done more quickly. But if they can do it, let them do it for themselves. It builds confidence and a sense of competence. And to be a healthy adult, these are things that are very crucial. Attribute positive intent. So assume the best of them wherever you can and as much as you can. Like, believe in them. And lastly, build up a bank of positive regard. Think 5 positives to each critical or negative that you may want to share with your child. Appreciate what you can about them and then give whatever critical feedback you need to give. But try to keep it swayed to more of the positive, less of the negative. That will build a healthy and positive relationship between you and your child. And on that fine note, we're going to move into our question and answer session. And again, just thank you all for being here with us tonight. And we're going to open it up.
Yeah, and I think because we don't have a whole lot of folks here, if you have a question, please raise your hand and we can hear from you live. If
They
anyone
actually, because it's a webinar, they're not able to speak.
Oh,
So the
yeah,
best way to do it, everybody, is to find the Q&A button on your screen. It might be on the bottom, it might be in the 3-dot menu. So that's the best way for us all to see your questions.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, because when we were in there at the beginning, I was able to unmute one of the folks that was in the waiting room and we talked.
Oh, I guess we can't allow them to talk.
Yeah, we can. They can raise their hand and we can give them permission to talk. I don't see anybody raising their little hand, which is okay because we are just about at time anyhow. So what I want to encourage everyone here to do, if you're with us live, is reach out to us after the fact. If you think of anything that you want to ask, a question that you want to ask, you can email clinical@ahasb.org. And Sarah, maybe you can put that into the chat. And we can circle back because we love connecting with you one-on-one. And yeah, I think we can just go ahead and finish our conversation and do our poll and call it a night. If there's no questions. I always figure if there's no questions, that means that we were just that awesome. We've answered all the questions that could ever already. All right. Nancy, would you like to
Yes.
share about our other resources?
Yes, as you mentioned, we do have some upcoming parent groups. Some will be via Zoom, but as Melissa mentioned, we will be having some in person, so we hope to see you guys there as well. One will be March 11th, Understanding and Managing Teen Anxiety. That's the one in person, and then we'll have some other ones via Zoom, February 5th and March 5th. So we hope to have you guys back.
Beautiful. And then maybe we can share about the clinical sessions and the after-school groups that are enrolling right now. You want to share?
Yes. Yes, so we do offer by attending and completing the poll, right? They will be you that are live, you'll be eligible for our 6 free clinical sessions. So reach out to us to the email you saw at the chat or yes. And then we will also are enrolling currently for the after school group. So you can reach out to paulina@sv.org.
Beautiful. Thank you. And then Sarah, why don't you go ahead and launch the poll? I'm gonna end the screen sharing. Hello. So if you are here with us now, it would be wonderful if you could fill out that poll. We'll give you a couple minutes. And maybe our facilitation team can think if there's any last words of wisdom that you want to share related to tonight's topic. Or we can just do a gratitude.
I guess what was coming up for me is that as a parent, I forget. So my son is 11, so he's entering preteen. I forget how I used to act at that age and on. So I feel like I have like higher expectations of that. So I guess a good reminder for myself is to just remember that I went through that stage also. Yeah.
Yeah, and how hard it can be to parent a teen when you had a rough time as a teen. And to see the things coming up for them that came up for you and that maybe weren't met with very much compassion or understanding by our own parents. And that can really come up when you're parenting teens too. I mean, also junior high age. I definitely had that experience when my kids were in junior high of just feeling how hard that was for me. Yeah. What about you, Sabrina? Anything else you want to share?
I think the thing that I was reflecting on is just the reminder to not take it so personal. That it can feel like such an affront back to that 40% you named when particularly teens that parents experience when they have adolescent children, that they can feel sad or like rejected by their teens, and to remember that's why, back to our initial statement, that when you understand what can be expected at these different ages and phases, then you're kind of freed up in a way. And when you know what to expect and you know that it's really not about you per se, it's like this is what they're supposed to be doing. This is normal. It's natural. It's just part of the development. And just a reminder, having worked with teens for like 24 years now, that they do come back around. Mostly. I've told a lot of parents, they will get through this, hopefully, and that you will, if you really showed up in the best way that you could as a parent, it calms down and you'll feel close again, hopefully.
Yeah. And this, because we shared so much about what to do and what not to do, like, please don't think that anybody can be a perfect parent.
Never.
It's all about just being willing to continue to grow and learn and try new things. And it's just, if something's not working, you try something else.
That's right.
Yes. So thank you for participating in the poll. We got all our people responding. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Really grateful for this opportunity. And I think we are all going to just go ahead and say good night. Good night to Angelica and Kimberly. Thank you to Ugo and Regina and Sarah for tech support and interpretation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.